everyone, my name is Taylin and this is Dietitian with a Mission. Today we are featuring melon. So I've got 3 recipes for you. They're all super fast, super simple. They only take 4 ingredients and you can make all 3 of them in less than 30 minutes. Let's get to it. Our first recipe is a simple watermelon feta salad. First thing we have to do is know how to pick out a watermelon. So there are lots of tips and tricks you can use. I'll tell you about 3. One is that it makes a good thumping sound when you hit it from the side. The lower the pitch, the sweeter and more ripe the watermelon is. The second thing is the field spot that's usually on the bottom where the watermelon was sitting on the field. You want it to be a deep yellow color. Now mine isn't as deep of a yellow color as I would have preferred, but this is the deepest one that was available at the market, so I went for it. The third thing is that you're looking for scarring. Some people call it webbing. And this is just a symbol that the sugar is really concentrated and is kind of leaking through the skin. And the more webbing, the better. So if this had even more webbing, we'd assume it's even sweeter. So for this watermelon salad, you're gonna want a sharp knife. And this is true for any melon. Anytime you cut it, you want a really sharp knife. If you don't already have a whetstone to sharpen your knife, definitely consider investing in one. You will not regret it. Or you might send your knives to get sharpened, or you might just have a classic kind of mini sharpener that you can use as well. Any of these are a good option. So I'm gonna cut my watermelon into watermelon steaks or watermelon fries. And to do that, we need a flat surface. So our first goal is to cut the middle of the watermelon. And this is a really big one. Whew. I'm very careful. So I cut it in half. And then we're gonna put the cut side down. I can smell it. It's so like fruity and herbaceous, very florally, very nice. And now that we've got the cut side down, we're going to cut it into strips that are about an inch and a half. Okay, another tip that I use is underneath your cutting board, get a cloth. It could be a clean cloth, a hand towel, get it damp, and then put it underneath your cutting board. When you do this, your cutting board won't wiggle around, and that increases safety because it's decreasing the chance that you will accidentally slip and cut yourself. So now you can pick up your cutting board with your heavy watermelon and turn it in the other direction. And we're going to do another round of cuts into a checkerboard style pattern. Okay, so now we got our watermelon ball. It looks pretty cool. And you get to take your bowl, put it on top of your watermelon, and if you got a juicy one like I do, then the juices might go flying everywhere. Drain that over the sink. But I just flipped it. Ha! And there we go. Now we got our watermelon fries ready to go, and you can just, let me get a fork. Or if you had like a shish kebab or something, shish kebab sticks would be great. You just pull it out and you've got these perfect fries. Very juicy. I'm going to do the same cutting style with our other half. That half will remain in the fridge for the remainder of the week, and we'll snack on that. But this half is what's gonna go into the salad. So you will need half a watermelon. At this point, I'm just cutting off the rind so that we're left with some steaks, and we'll eventually turn these into cubes. So that's all we're doing. Just slice them and cube them. I ended up using about half of my half, so a quarter of my watermelon, and I think that will be enough for this particular recipe. Now in this recipe, I don't have exact measurements, so you can adjust these proportions as you see fit. Excuse my dog. So the cheese we're using is a feta cheese. This is 100% sheep's milk feta. So if you have lactose intolerance problems, this is a great option for you as it has a little less lactose. Okay, so we drained the water out of that. This is about 7 ounces of cheese, and I'm gonna go ahead and use the whole block. But obviously, if you're using more watermelon, you're gonna need more cheese. And we're gonna cut it into cubes and then kind of spread it throughout the watermelon. It doesn't need to be exact cubes. A lot of people just take it and crumble it with their fingers. That works as well. You could do both. That way you have some small chunks, some larger chunks in there. Okay, and feta's got this naturally salty and creamy taste and texture, which is great because watermelon is so the opposite of that. So the fact that they contrast just really hits all parts of your taste buds on your tongue, and that's what makes this recipe so darn good. I'm gonna wash my hands and then we're gonna chop up the mint and add that to the bowl. Okay, so I just rinsed off my fresh mint leaves and I'm drying them off with a paper towel, removing any kind of old, yucky, brown leaves. And now we're just gonna pick through the mint quickly. You can have some of the little stems, that's not a problem because you're gonna chop it up, but you certainly want to remove like the big stems. And again, I don't have a precise measurement. I think I'm gonna use, because I like mint, I like a lot of mint, I'm gonna use the whole pack. If you are not a big mint fan, start with half the pack because you can always add more. It's easy to add more, it's hard to take out. If you did accidentally use proportions that you didn't like, you can just go back and add more of your watermelon so that the ratio is adjusted. Now there are lots of variations to this recipe. I've seen versions where people will put olives in this mixture, people will put cucumber in this mixture, red onion in this mixture, and honestly any of those work. Cucumber has this herbaceous flavor, a little bit florally, that works really well with watermelon, and olives have that saltiness that the feta cheese does, so again, that would work as well. I think olives would work really nicely if you don't eat dairy, or or vegan or something like that. You could use olives as a salty alternative. So here we are bunching up the mint, and I'm just going to coarsely chop this. You can mince it if you like, if you want smaller pieces of mint. It kind of just depends on your preference. Make sure when you do cut it, you cut it in all directions. Here we go, plop that in. And take a spoon and gently toss. Now traditionally, we would just drizzle this with olive oil and sprinkle some fresh cracked black pepper. However, I like to add a little bit of a twist. I adore balsamic vinegar. So I've got some classic dark balsamic vinegar here beside me, and I'm gonna drizzle that on as well. I think this would be fun if you also had an infused balsamic vinaigrette, like a strawberry balsamic vinegar. I know a chocolate balsamic vinegar would be fun. I think we actually have a lavender balsamic vinegar we could use. Okay, so that's nice and evenly tossed. A little bit of EVOO. And this will, kind of sink down to the bottom and coat everything anyways. So you can toss it, but it's not required. And then be really careful with the balsamic because it has a tendency to just pour out like nobody's business. And then of course, fresh cracked pepper. A little bit of a toss again. And that's it. Boom, bada bing, done. This is your watermelon and mint feta salad. I hope you enjoy. Let's take a bite. Recipe number 2 is a melon and prosciutto caprese skewer. Just like with our watermelon, we need a flat surface, but for our cantaloupe, it's important that we really wash and scrub the outside because it's got all of the tiny grooves. Bacteria can live in them, especially salmonella. And if it lives in there and then you cut into the melon, you're bringing that bacteria from the outside to the inside of the melon. And then if you put it back into your fridge and let it sit, the bacteria can multiply over time. So wash the outside of your melon first and make sure you're using clean surfaces. Woo! There goes our melon half. Okay, so I cut my melon in half. I'm gonna take just a cookie scoop to get the seeds out of the middle. It's really simple this way. We don't want the seeds in this particular recipe. Though if you eat the seeds, there's nothing's wrong with it. You're not gonna grow a melon in your belly. Okay, so if I had the big mozzarella pearls, then I would use this cookie cutter as a melon baller, and I could just dig into this and use this as my skewer item. But they're a bit big compared to my mozzarella. So for you guys, I would recommend either getting the larger mozzarella pearls or a smaller melon baller. But what I'm going to do is just cut my melon into tiny cubes and then layer it with the mozzarella, the prosciutto, and the basil. Give you these. And then you'll layer like the melon, the cheese. You can take a little bit of the prosciutto, just tear it, clump it.
Is that gonna be enough prosciutto?
Stick it. And then take a little bit of the basil. And then do it again. This is a pretty fun activity to do with family or friends, and it's a great way to get kids involved in the kitchen. If you have all of your ingredients prepped, you just assembly line it. So get your basil washed and dried, get your prosciutto separated and chopped up or torn up, get your mozzarella pearls, ready to grab, package open, and then you just layer it. There's no special pattern that your skewers need to follow. Just take turns putting on melon and prosciutto and cheese and basil, and it will all be tasty in the end. We won't use our whole mozzarella pack, but we will use our entire prosciutto pack for half of our cantaloupe here. This ends up being your skewer. This is a great appetizer. This is a great snack. And if you're thinking, Taylin, putting items on a skewer does not sound fast and easy, you might be right. So I do have an alternative for you. If you don't want to do the skewer method, you can decide to chop up everything and mix it together in a bowl. Another idea is you can wrap it. So you can take a piece of prosciutto, you could do this whole slice or you could do half a slice. I'm gonna cut this in half. And then you can take a larger chunk of melon and your larger basil leaf, and you'll wrap that up with a couple of your mozzarella pearls, and you roll your prosciutto right over it. And it works because the prosciutto is pretty stretchy. And you got this. And you can take a toothpick and stick it right through. And that might be a much faster hold for you. There you are. I have another variation for you. And that's if you like spice. Take some olive oil. I'm using some lemon infused olive oil because why not add more flavor? And then a little bit of some red chili flakes. Or maybe a lot of it, I don't know, I like spice. And a basting brush. Give that a nice mix. And then take your skewer and brush lightly some of the olive oil chili pepper mixture. It's certainly going to give your skewers an extra kick. And it's quite delicious. Well, that's it. Super simple. I hope you enjoyed. Let's give it a taste. Kind of went heavy on the chili pepper here. That's okay. We're making agua fresca, which is Spanish for fresh water, and our ingredients for this version are 4 strawberries, so about 4 ounces of strawberries. We're going to use just a little bit of melon, about 1 cup of melon, a handful of basil leaves, washed and stems removed, and then the juice of 1 lime. It really depends on how much juice this lime gives us. I'm shooting for 1 to 2 tablespoons, and then honey, about 1 to 2 tablespoons, depending on level of sweetness. We'll mix this with some cold water and some ice. Let me show you in the blender. Don't forget to remove the stems of your strawberries. Because this isn't a smoothie, it's an agua fresca, we really don't need this extra greenery. Some people might actually strain this recipe after blending it. Basil? You could also use mint if you don't have basil or don't like basil. Half of my lime gave me 1 tablespoon of lime juice. I'm gonna start with that. Can always add more if I need. We'll do just 1 tablespoon of honey. Should be plenty sweet on its own. You wanna make sure you have a pretty sharp knife so that this is easy and you don't accidentally cut yourself. I cut off the bottom so that we have that flat surface to work with. Remove the seeds. You can use a spoon, a melon baller, an ice cream scoop. With your sharp knife, you're going to remove the outer skin layer. Chop it up into cubes. Okay, this is about 1/4 of my honeydew, and that gave me, 1 heaping cup. So I'm not going to be too picky. 1 heaping cup is perfect. And 1 cup of cold water. Blend. It's a little dark because we decided to flavor this up with strawberries. If you wanted to keep its bright green color, feel free to blend it with some green grapes or some green apple or even some pear. Strain it over ice with your spatula to help get out all the juice. And you can either eat the puree, discard it, or find something creative to cook it with. Or for more of a smoothie feel, just blend it with ice and serve cold. Enjoy!